Next on the Jeff Crilley Show, they call it the silver tsunami. There's a wave of baby boomers who are aging, and there's a greater need than ever before for senior care. We'll talk to a nationally known expert next.
Many are predicting that the worst is yet to come, which is unfortunate, said one person here. Until now, they've enjoyed the reputation of being the nation's icebox.
Watched a burglar in his home this morning by webcam.
As a journalist of over 25 years, stories are what make my world turn.
Reporting live from the Dallas newsroom tonight, Jeff Crilley, Fox 4 News.
But in 2008, I took the jump from my familiar life and started a PR firm from my home.
We're talking about anyone with a camcorder like the one I'm using becomes a television network.
We started slowly growing the company, and we now have over 100 clients, and we've branched into the world of live digital broadcasting. I now own 8 different TV studios and have a huge team, and the stories that I now get to share are sometimes the most important of my life. Life has a funny way of coming around full circle. This is the Jeff Crilley Show.
Well, some people call it the sandwich generation, and let me explain that. It's a couple who's caring for their own kids and mom and dad, and it's a situation that millions and millions of American families find themselves in, and often they don't know what to do until it's too late. Mom or dad falls, and suddenly they're scrambling to find help. To talk about that today, John Alagood, he is with the Senior Care Authority. Thanks for coming on the show.
Good.
Yeah.
Jeff, thanks for having me.
Well, you started this journey because of a personal experience. Is that right?
Yeah, that's true. So my family lived with Alzheimer's from 1996 to 2006, and we made probably every mistake someone can make going through that process. My mother wandered through memory cares alone. Eventually, it was a point where she was on the edge of bankruptcy over the costs. And it wasn't until years later that I realized that there were people that would step into that and help walk families through the process. So that was kind of an inspiration.
And so when you get calls at your company, is it usually kind of a panicked call? Like, I probably should have called you yesterday?
There tends to be some urgency, and there's kind of a range on that. But we're getting a call when there is concern about quality of life or safety for somebody that someone cares about. And it's an adult child. It's a daughter, it's a son, and mom or dad, they're no longer sure that they're safe. So they're not sleeping well at night, wondering, what do we do? What are next steps? Where could be safe? So we help answer that question, when home is no longer safe.
Okay, more with John in a minute. We saw a great client testimonial video. Let's go ahead and roll that now.
I always remember Mother saying, the student I want to work with is the student that no other teacher wants.
My mom was very much the disciplinarian. My father was easy. And so he worked quite a bit. She raised me and 4 younger brothers pretty much alone for a long time.
One of the hardest things for me when I knew Mother was no longer able to really stay independent was what's going on with her today. Is she having a good day or a bad day? And is she there alone in need? And how would I know that?
I know every day when I left, I was somewhat in distress because I didn't know how she was going to be cared for when I wasn't there.
Then the question I had was, where do I take her? How do I take her? And how do I find that place? And you know, from the outside, the buildings all look beautiful. And then fortunately, I got a call from Senior Care Authority offering to assist me. And I knew right then it was different. I knew there was care and compassion and understanding because they didn't offer me answers, they asked me questions. And from then, right that second, I knew immediately Senior Care Authority was totally different than anybody else I'd ever spoken to about helping me find a place for Mother.
My name is John Alagood, and I'm the area owner of Senior Care Authority in Dallas-Fort Worth. Our goal for seniors is for them to thrive with dignity and finish well. Finding the right senior living among more than 1,000 options in Dallas-Fort Worth can be stressful and confusing. Safety and quality of life are at risk, and tens or even hundreds of thousands of dollars can be at stake.
How do you do that by yourself? That's a daunting thing to do when you have other responsibilities in your life besides looking for something for your loved one. So that helped enormously in that I didn't have to do all that background work. They actually had a lot of input, a lot of questions that they asked the facilities when we were there together that I would not have thought to ask.
My first in-person meeting with Representative Senior Care Authority was actually in my own home. John gave me information from the inside out, information that he's gained by being on the ground, being on the inside.
So we invest a lot of our time in getting to know the communities, what makes them tick, what kind of care they provide. We spend hours pouring through the safety records, and we even have a proprietary rating system.
So having somebody just share the burden, help me carry that load, it was absolutely fabulous to know I had confidence in John, and I also knew that he had no motivation other than to help Mother. And so from that standpoint, just trust, immediate trust was built, earned and built and maintained.
We are senior living and care experts. We understand the care, the costs, and the safety records of hundreds of communities, from assisted living and memory care to independent living and even skilled nursing. We help families cut through the complexity to make courageous, informed decisions under difficult circumstances.
And John has really taken a leadership position in his industry. Tell us about this organization that you're on the board of.
Yeah, absolutely. The National Placement Referral Alliance is the trade association for senior placement agents. So professionals that are helping families navigate all of these options. So if you think about the Dallas-Fort Worth area, there are 1,000 senior living and care options, which is overwhelming for a family. Even when you look at a reasonable geography, maybe it's 50 to 100. So as we have our society aging, families are saying, hey, this is an important decision. It's a difficult decision. Who's going to help me with it? Because I used to think that the most costly decision that a person would make in their lives was a home. But as our family experienced senior living and care needs, we realized it's not a home. The average cost in Texas of senior living and care is easily triple the average mortgage. So it's high stakes, but it's also a decision that families are making at a difficult point. So if they are searching for that right place in assisted living, memory care, other kind of environment, then they're in a challenging place. They're having to make a very difficult decision sometimes from a low point. So that's where placement agents come in. So our trade association, National Placement Referral Alliance, puts structure around, well, what does it mean to be a placement agent? And what are the best practices? What are the ethical standards? It holds that bar high for what this industry and professionals should do. And I've been privileged to be a part of our national board, one of the directors.
And you were telling me off camera that you are opening new chapters all the time. So you've got one coming up?
Well, I'm excited. So in September, we're hosting a meeting in San Antonio. So starting our San Antonio chapter. So really looking forward to that.
Congratulations. Let's talk a little bit more about the services that your company offers. I was on your website and you talk about advocacy and elder care consulting. Tell me what that means.
Yeah, absolutely. So we help families make some of the most difficult decisions that they come across. So a lot of times that is a placement decision. That is answering the question where in terms of a safe environment for someone that's becoming increasingly vulnerable. And so that's frequently the decision that we're helping families with. We can also help with various kinds of elder care consulting, peace of mind visits, joining on doctor's visits, other things that support a family, especially if they may be traveling or away or more distant. And then also more recently, we've started helping families with driving decisions, because that point when it may no longer be safe to drive. Sure. It's just a difficult and critical point. And we have a way of approaching that is very respectful of the older adult. And that's important, because someone that gets to a point and they've driven their entire lives and now they feel like they've had the keys taken away, sure, that person is in a very different position than someone who has come to the conclusion that, you know what, I think I'm going to use some other options and some of these resources to get me around, or keeping them in the driver's seat in terms of decisions, sure, can be a good way to help keep them out of the driver's seat in their car, so to speak.
We've got some pictures off of your Facebook page, because you care for all kinds of families from all walks of life. And it occurs to me that this is so personal that you become almost a counselor, don't you, or a therapist?
Yeah. Yep. So there are a lot of parts to what we do. So it feels like being half real estate agent, half social worker, half pastor, half consumer reports.
Yes.
So there's a lot of halves to it.
And you have a nice manner about you, John. You're just a pleasant person, and I can see why you're so successful in this. And having dealt with it in your own family, I'm sure that makes you very relatable.
I think the personal experience matters. So what we find is that the people attracted to the industry have some seasoning in life. They've been through some of these challenges. They can empathize. With them. Remember when I look at my family together every Easter, we get pictures and I see Grandma and Grandpa, and I would look at that picture and I'd see generations of teachers and pastors and healers, and I would look at Grandma and Grandpa. But it's not an accident that those are the kinds of people that grew up in the family. But my impression of them is different than my son's impression of them because he remembers them as the sick couple in the smelly house. And that's because we weren't able to get them the help and support that they needed time. And that's painful to me. So I think part of what our team does is we give families another generation of legacy, because when they have the right support that they need, that next generation gets to know them and who they are.
Sure. You had a great metaphor that you gave me before the show about a tower of champagne glasses.
Yes.
Can you share that?
Yes. I like to describe it as a champagne waterfall, because when you think of an older adult getting to where parts of life are becoming challenging, they're adapting and they're changing and they're doing what they can to make life work. But at some point that cup overflows. And who does that overflow onto? Well, it goes to that next level. Well, that's the kids. So now the kids are stepping in and trying to help, and mom and dad okay. And a lot of times by the time they're coming in, they hadn't realized how difficult it had become. And then you mentioned the sandwich generation. This is when they get sandwiched, right? Because now they're trying to help mom and dad, who may or may not be nearby, but they have their own kids and their own family that they're working with.
Sure. Well, we're almost out of time. So final thoughts. What would you like to leave people with?
I'd say you don't have to be alone in this decision. It's very difficult. It's the cost of a house and the trust of a marriage. And there are people that can be there with you to think through the care, the cost, the safety, and all those dynamics to help a family get to peace of mind.
Outstanding. John, you've been a great guest. We're going to end with your website, which is scadfw.com, and the number is right there on the screen. John, thanks for coming on the show.
Right. Thanks, Jeff.
You bet. That's it for now. We'll see you next time.